welcome to Tomorrow Talk. I am here today with Thistle, as we're going to be talking about our last Daggerheart episode that we had, oof, 2 weeks ago, was it? Maybe 3 weeks ago? I think it was 3 weeks ago now, wasn't it?
It has been a little bit.
Yep, this will be our episode 5 of Tomorrow Talk, so that's awesome. I guess I'll do a quick rundown of what happened during that last session of Daggerheart. Our party had woken up in the town hall. There they were kind of just getting as much information as they could of what happened overnight while they were sleeping, connecting with some civilians. I think they got a little hint or indicator that there might be a little bit of a issue for the mayor in the coming day. There was a lot of threats that were directed in there his way, but not directly so. It was more in like side conversations that popped up. But overall, it was pretty much just okay. Town's frozen outside. It looks like a lot of the daylight has frozen these like creatures had attacked them previously during the evening. They also discovered that a lot of these civilians, or a lot of these creatures that they had fought, were former civilians, which probably wasn't too shocking of a reveal for players, but for the citizens themselves, that revelation was enough to cause great concern, because once they determined that they were going to leave the town hall and start heading towards the forest where they believed the source of this corruption was, they could hear the bellowing cries of people from the town, kind of in mourning for the realization that their loved ones, even though they still technically are standing before them, might be dead and just reformed into the monstrous shapes. But when they got into the forest, it was very much ash covered. There was a lot of creepy sounds, ambience of howling going on in the background, a lot of trees that had no leaves upon them, except there were a few trees that did, because they were surrounded by, looks like almost a protection spell of their own, but of a natural making. These little mushrooms that formed around some of the trees seemed to have protected by whatever means they could, these trees that they surrounded. They did end up getting surprise attacked by a slime. Thistle was digging in the dirt and happened to awaken something from underneath the soil, and it did attack the group, but the group managed to fight it off. They pushed further into the forest and eventually got to the cave. They tried to communicate with the vines and stuff, but realized that they couldn't, because it's not a natural growth. So they continued to press on after trying to do a little bit of investigation before doing so. And as they entered the cave, it was dark. It was obviously creepy, but they just pressed forward. And when they got to the heart of the cave, that's where they saw this large beating vessel created of like masses of matter, biomatter, and vines that kind of formed like this heart-like structure that was suspended in the air within this central chamber. And extending from this construct, the vines just seemed to spread out throughout the cave. It seemed to be the source of where all this was started from. But before they could investigate further, they saw on the surface a device that was planted down, a crystal that was glowing with a faint pulse, and a female that they had noticed when they first arrived at her on the ship. Her name was Valen, and she was talking a lot of nonsense. It sounded like she was confused why she was standing where she was standing. It was like she lost time, lost reference of why she was here, what purpose brought her here. She was in full panic mode. She had no idea what was going on. The group tried to settle her down, but when they couldn't, I think it was Geller who put her to sleep, knocked her out, and the group was about to just pick her up and take her out of there. But before they could, two large, monstrous figures, pretty much formed out of like bodies attacked the group in like a pincer type formation. This was probably the first encounter the group was facing solo level enemies. Solo enemies in Daggerheart are very difficult enemies. They're not like minions or anything. They have hit points. They've got special maneuvers. These ones specifically could attack all targets within melee range. They had a howl that could generate fear, but could also cause strain to the players. So every time a player failed their success roll to avoid the effects of this howl, I got fear, but they also suffered strain. So it was the first time they were encountering something that had a little bit more mechanics to it. That fight was tense. There was a lot of close calls. It almost looked like there was going to be a few people who would have fallen to 0 HP. But they managed to push on. They managed to press on, and they managed to win the encounter. However, during the encounter, there was a timer going on. And in Daggerheart, they have countdowns. The countdown was they had to beat these two enemies within a certain time period before whatever was within that heart was given birth. And as they were fighting, they visually saw this like Lilith-like form coming out of this heart, slowly piercing the bottom of it. Like they could see the legs and stuff. But as they demolished these enemies, not only did that figure just turn into like dust, so did the heart. But with the heart, they had to do one final thing. Geller had to concentrate all his magical energy into that crystal focus to amplify his power, because they learned that this was a device that the Sisterhood utilized during like conflicts to settle disputes really quickly, because it was a device that would amplify power within themselves. And so by utilizing that, Geller burnt away this heart, and the cave started to collapse in on itself without the support of the vines and the structure that this heart was keeping up. As they escaped, it was close, but Geller and Bellamy managed to escape last, because Bellamy was not going to leave her tutor alone in that cave. Goodbye him. And
Bremia.
Oh, sorry, Bremia. And once they were out of there, that's kind of where we left it. They escaped it. They finished the source of the corruption, and they gained their first level in Daggerheart. They actually leveled 2. They're still within that first tier of combat within Daggerheart. I believe the first 4 levels is tier 1. I'd have to look into that more, but every so many levels equals a different tier. So they're still within that first tier as level 2 characters, but now they've got a little bit more power to them. So can't wait to see what happens as they go forward. Can't wait to see what's next. But I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of conversations coming forth soon, and maybe finally leaving the island of Hearthvale. So, with that said, Thistle, is there any like general things you'd like to say about that event before we get into like the back and forth question?
It was a lot of fun. I think it was we had combat before, but I think this was the first, like, in the Daggerheart stuff that we've faced like some more serious combat. I know I said it. Thistle at one point was really down. 2 more hits and she would have been on her deathbed. So, but it was fun. It was fun to play around. It was also a good, I think, way to like continue to learn the system and how combat works, and when you should probably take an armor slot and when you should probably take the damage. It was also the first time that I used my healing for the first time, and that was awesome because Thistle can heal, so that was fun. But yeah, I think overall it was really good experience, and we're now moving on to the conclusion of this first kind of chapter of their story, and we're moving on to the next chapter in our next session.
Yeah, talking about this past session, when your party entered that heart of the cave and you saw Valen there, before her ramblings and stuff, what was going on in your head as the player? Not necessarily Thistle, but your head, player. Like, what were you trying to like discern? Like, was she involved in this? Was she like a pawn? Like, what was going on in your head?
Yeah, I think I said it, I think, in our last talk with Eslaine, was that we each had kind of our theories of Valen and the role she played. And I kind of thought, maybe she was like an unwitting type of pawn in this. And it seems like that may have been the case, because based on the her interactions, first seeing her in the cave, she kind of seemed perplexed and confused. And then once we got further in and the interactions between Geller and Valen, it definitely seemed like something had happened to her, that maybe she wasn't her full self, and she hasn't been for some time, because something potentially had, awoken in her, or potentially even possessed her to kind of be a vessel to create what was going on. And that seems to be the case, but obviously we won't know the full story until probably, or at least get a better picture of it until the next session. But that kind of seems the direction that things are going, based on those interactions in that scene.
And since we are doing Star Wars tomorrow, how did the vibe feel playing this last episode of Daggerheart versus like how we've been engaged in Star Wars? Like, there's a lot more like horror-esque kind of elements in this last Daggerheart session, with like the creatures, the environment and stuff. Like, how was that adjustment from like the sci-fi elements that we deal with regarding Star Wars?
Okay, now you're just calling me out because I don't like horror games.
Absolutely.
It was like, I think it was kind of cool to see, actually, because I'll just go to like Thistle's first interactions, are with the nature around her, when they're kind of going through that kind of like unnatural environment where the forest is there, and she goes to like the bottom of a tree and tries to connect with it, and then you see like these vines, which they are like vines, but they really, it's kind of one of those things, like, they're not natural in the same way that Thistle knows them to be, because it's almost like tentacles instead of vines, basically. That's kind of what it's very much in that same kind of I forget what the theme is. There's a theme for those types of things. But yeah, it was definitely spookier. But we didn't encounter anything that was too beyond my scare level yet. But yeah, it was nice to see something different too, because Star Wars, I feel like Star Wars were more grounded, because while Star Wars obviously has its own like wisps of kind of sci-fi fantasy, this is a different type of fantasy, and we don't really get to see that in Star Wars, so it's nice to have a difference there too, because I feel like my character in Star Wars is going to be very different, is very different from Thistle, so kind of getting those different environments is nice, because if I had a character like Thistle in Star Wars, Lord, and then if I had a character like Holly in Daggerheart, actually Holly would be the easiest one in Daggerheart. Thistle would be very difficult in Star Wars.
Yeah, I feel like this would be like, oh, look at that colorful blade. Is that a lollipop?
Yeah, Thistle would definitely be like, she wouldn't last very long in a Star Wars universe. I'm not sure she's gonna last very long in the Daggerheart universe, but she definitely wouldn't last very long in the Star Wars universe, where Holly as a character is much more stoic, and I think we have some of those types of characters already in our Star Wars and actually in our Daggerheart. So she'd fit in a way, maybe not the same way, but she'd fit in a way because she's more of that observant. Actually, Holly would definitely be a character that probably get along much more with Eslane's character and Rose's character, because they would be kind of like trying to uncover secrets and clues and information, where Thistle's a little bit more like leads with her heart.
Yeah, and going back to that encounter, you weren't part of the tough encounter in Star Wars. So being part of an encounter where your character's life is literally on the line, well, how did you approach that as a player, and what was the decision making for your character in that encounter? Because I know you weren't part of the Star Wars encounter where poor Tony lost her character Ula. So you were just an observer on that one, but this time you were definitely very much involved in this one.
Yeah. I mean, the two encounters that happened in this last session, I think from a character standpoint, Thistle is kind of very much true to herself. Like, she's very much the character that stands her. She thinks is right. I mean, there was a moment, I will say, I think before the creature or whatever was like, I guess, destroyed in that chamber, there was a moment that Thistle may have tried to speak out. Like, I was actually debating on it. I was like, is Thistle going to try to do something or say something? Or because she was, when they first went into that chamber, she was trying to communicate with it. She was trying to speak to it because she was hoping somehow there was some nature or something she could speak with, and she did get something. So I think once it went further on, before it was the end, she did want to. I think there was part of her that wanted to speak to it and see if anything could be saved, if there was anything that was, I guess, worth saving. She ultimately didn't, but that was kind of where she was. And then obviously, in the first encounter where she was with the tree, that kind of everything changed around the tree, and she encouraged conflict there apparently. But like, she was there because she was trying to heal the tree. She went over there because she saw this other tree with mushrooms around it, and she was like, well, maybe if I try to recreate the same thing over here, I can help heal this contagion or whatever's taken over it. So that's very much like her perspective. She's very much natural order of things is how she sees it. Like, things don't need to be changed or adjusted. They can be as they are. And so, in those life-threatening situations, Thistle's kind of, very much of, if I die, I'm returning to the dirt of which I was born. Like, she's probably most chill. Like, if she was gonna die, she'd be the character that just kind of like did so with no fear in her heart, which is, rare for some characters, but she's definitely that kind of character.
Very Jedi.
Yeah, she would be actually a very Jedi mindset, actually. That's an interesting way to put her. She would definitely be in that light.
Yeah, it was interesting. And then I think the communication you got was like a primal anger came from the massive cocooned vine and stuff that was above you guys.
Yeah, and that's why when that happened, I know didn't really anything did come of it, but she did, like, I felt like it made sense for that anger, because you'll never see her really angry. Like, you see her frustrated, but she's never really angry. And I think that feeling, it's natural for that to kind of erupt from her, because it's such an unnatural thing. And that's why, like, on that session, I was like, well, she's gonna use one of her abilities, and she's not doing it necessarily to target someone, but she's doing it because she's just, this isn't normal for her, and kind of how I want it to be, like an outward reaction of something's off. Obviously, thankfully, no one got harmed, but still, it was like one of those things I felt fit for that moment for that character.
Yeah, I think we talked about it. I think this is the only cool thing about any pen and paper is that we talked about. You asked it not for them to get hurt, and since you were doing it for a role play purpose, we were like, okay, well, we won't have like the pain effect happen, but we'll have the binding effect. So.
Yeah, and it failed, so it wasn't going to happen anyway.
Yeah. It was good.
But I think that made sense anyway, that it would fail because, again, it's unnatural, and she's very natural. So if it's something born out of the unnaturalness, it might have a tendency to falter.
What do you think, like, Raiden and Shroomy were thinking during that? Because Raiden, fortunately, during that encounter, did not get a lot of spotlights. So what do you think his character was trying to process? Or let's talk about it from a player's perspective. What do you think, as players, you guys might try to do going forward with future encounters? Since this was our first time, like, having a really big encounter where coordination was key.
Yeah, I mean, I think we coordinated pretty well for the most part. I will say I think we're still, I can't speak for everyone, but I think everyone's still kind of getting adjusted to their characters a little bit too, and kind of getting into their shoes. Raiden's definitely more of I think almost like of a brooding character who not necessarily speaks up a ton. So I imagine that this experience for him has been like jarring, but he might not communicate it like someone like Thistle does, or Brimia or Shroomy, like where they're a lot more like they want to have like I wouldn't say a conversation about it, but they want to kind of like have a debrief on it. And I don't know how Raiden's character will react to it, but I definitely feel like he might be in a place where I'm glad that's over. We need to get out of this place. Because this place is a mess. But also that character has already shown he's, more of a chivalrous character. He's definitely helped defend Thistle a couple times now. Her knight in shining armor. And so that's nice. Then for Shroomy, I think Shroomy's actually, it's fun to watch because her and Thistle obviously have a bond, a connection, but it's nice to see her character Arve. We say Shroomy, but her character's name's Arve. She's also, creating her own identity with the group too, beyond Thistle. Like she's creating a connection with Brimia, and then she's already like started to make some connections with even Eslain's character. Like she's branching out, and that's nice to see too. And it's nice to see those original connections we all had going into them. Some characters already branching out beyond that, and actually I think Arve's is one of the best examples of that.
All right, and just to kind of piggyback off that question, as a player, since this is our first time really engaging with Daggerheart, how would you like to see combat spotlight go moving forward? Like, how would you kind of encourage, like, maybe people who haven't had the spotlight, how would you want to see that played out? Would you like to see it played out naturally? Would you like to see a little bit more direction from the DM? Like, what would you like to see as a player experiencing Daggerheart for the first time and the spotlight system? How would you like to see that?
I think it really just comes down to comfort levels. I think we're, again, still getting used to the system, but I think we have to, if the spotlight is on a character and they do an action, it just naturally, if they think their character is not going to try something else after a success, I think we need to naturally just, kind of see who would come next. Like, if you've got an encounter and you have, let's say, Thistle and Arve up front and Thistle attacks and then gets a success and Thistle's not going to do anything else, then, if Thistle's at the front and Arve's at the front, then probably those two would probably get the first hits. It wouldn't necessarily make sense if you're in the back and then you're like, well, I know you got a hit, so I'm going to take this, because the two in the front are more likely to get hit first. So unless one of them passes, I would say if I was doing the spotlight, I would do it by proximity. Like, I'd be like, okay, if Thistle has the spotlight and gets a success after their action, then naturally it should go to the second person in proximity to go next to whoever is getting hit, unless that person decides they're not going to take that action. But that's kind of how my thought process is, because it would suck to be up front where you're most likely going to take most of the damage and you don't get that spotlight. But I also think part of it, you have to kind of speak up. You can't just sit and say, well, I didn't get a shot. It's like, well, if you think your character's going to hit now, you need to say something. Because I think that's something we kind of, as a group, had to like get comfortable with, is speaking up. Like, I think that's just naturally, we have to speak up and, do that and just be like, hey, I need to act now. Thistle is going to use her staff and she's gonna club this fool. Like, and I think it helps with me because I'm playing in this game at least, I'm playing a more vocal character, so it kind of helps me to be like, Thistle's not just gonna sit idly by. She's gonna be there and try to club this thing.
Yep, that actually was brought up to me during the week. I think that mirrors what you're saying, is that this combat system requires a lot more player engagement in some way than like D&D or even our Star Wars, because in our Star Wars system we still have like a turn order, even though they're like player slots. You guys assign like a turn order, right? With Daggerheart, it's a little bit more free flowing, so it does rely on the players to kind of like almost coordinate their actions before they act, like make a plan, almost out of character a little bit to make sense of the in-character. I feel like there's a little bit more urgency on the player.
I will say too, I think with Daggerheart, it kind of sets it up where the DM, it does kind of feel like the DM has to worry about the enemies and what they're doing and kind of track. I feel like you have to track a lot because you have to track all your fear and everything. That, okay, the DM's got to do all this stuff. They're just waiting for your next failure so they can respond. And as players, if we want to be the most successful as we can, we have to act and we have to make our decisions as our collective players. And if we're skipping out or looking for direction from the DM, then we're probably putting ourselves at a disadvantage. So it's definitely better if we try to, take those moments as we can, but also understand, we don't want to have it where, again, using same example, where, okay, Thistle succeeds and smacks the enemy, Shroomy hits next and smacks the enemy, and then I don't want it shouldn't be like we both hit and then we're like, well, we're going another round, Thistle's gonna smack him again. Like I think it needs to be natural too. Like we need to be aware of the other people in our party to say, okay, I got my hit that I needed to get, and because my character would do that and my character's at the front, but understand there's other people in this battle, and if they want to take an action and there's spotlight, we need to be able to just be like, yep, whoever wants it, we can take it, or if it makes more sense for me to go another round, I'll go another round, like whatever works. But yeah, I think just communicating more a little bit. I think we're going to have to do a lot more of that in Daggerheart going forward. I think we're actually have to do that more in Star Wars too. It's just a different system.
Yeah, I like what you said about making it easier, because I think if the same actors are constantly going, right, they're constantly putting themselves in danger. If the whole group isn't coordinating, you actually do make it harder for yourselves. Like the DM isn't necessarily having to add that extra layer of difficulty, because the players in Daggerheart at least have a little bit more urgency to actually make it harder for themselves if they're not coordinating. their efforts, or at least saying, hey, Thistle is like maybe she's angry in the moment and she's got to strike out, and you explain that to the players, and if everyone feels like, yeah, go for it, Thistle, that sounds like a great RP opportunity for you, and you take a second action then. Like, those are the things that you guys can 100% talk about, and it probably would have in some ways made even this facing 2 solos probably a little easier too, right? You guys would have coordinated more, probably would have saw maybe a little bit more with Raiden's character, or and Shroomy, like we would have saw a little bit more maybe diversity in the action pool.
Yeah, and I think there's no shame either. It's like if you're a character and you're a more domineering character, a character that pushes to the front or something to try to defend other people, like that's fine. You can do that. Like ultimately, like I like to explain, just like my characters are going to do what's true to their character, and sometimes that might put them in a position that's not not the best, like put them right at the front when they probably shouldn't be right at the front. Though I will say Thistle is not like Brimia or like Geller. Both of them have ranged abilities and ranged like stabs. Thistle's is not ranged, so she has to smack things with it. She has very few ranged abilities, so she is actually one who will be close to the front regardless. But if a character like Raiden comes up and pushes her to the side, or I think Varellis did at one point try to push Shroomy and Thistle to the side to try to protect them, but you might have to do that with these characters. You might, like, if you feel like I'm going to protect these people, the only way I know is to push them out of the way, like you might have to. Like some characters, you might, if you feel like that you want to do that, you might have to make that action. It doesn't mean that a stubborn character like Thistle is going to stay behind, but it just means that that's how these characters react. Because if I, as the player, I have to stay true to whatever my character is going to do. And actually, a good example is not this, but like with going back, we're going to talk about it forever. But like Ula in Star Wars, like she was very true to her character when she made her kind of sacrifice. Like she could have went and tried to run with the others, but she wanted to be that protector and just make sure they were okay. And that action put her in danger. And there might have been a scenario where she could have survived if she had not done that, but she stayed true to her character. And that there's going to be situations where we as players are kind of in that, I guess, in that spot where it's like, this is the action that my character would take, but it puts us or me in danger, like, and you have to kind of fight with that a little bit. But that's the reality, I think, too, that we as players, and a lot of us role players have to kind of battle with too, I think.
Yeah, I think the Ula one is a good example, because it's like, obviously I could have made the enemies just play dumb and just shoot at everybody still, right? But in that moment, when Tony made that decision for her character, it made sense, because it looked like she was making a big RP decision. And these enemies saw 2 people running away, but they saw someone step forward with literally a lightsaber in hand, ready to face them. So it made sense that the enemies attacked her, right? So in this situation, though, with the 2 solos, though that creature block actually could have attacked up to very close range, I limited it just to melee range, because I adjusted it a little bit, because I realized that everyone was practically in very close range, and I was like, oh, this is going to be bad, they're going to be really bad. But I think that is also like something a lot of DMs do too, that take responsibility for like the story as well. Sometimes they'll adjust blocks, right, to make the story more interesting, because contrary to popular belief, your DM is not out there to kill you. They're out there to just make things challenging, sometimes difficult, sometimes easy, sometimes impossible, but those impossible moments relevant because it's okay to run from a fight too, or sometimes conquer them. I think you saw that in Critical Role. They, no spoilers in case anyone's watching, so if you're close your ears for a second, but they were fighting a much higher level mob, and they managed to overcome it, which was remarkable. But that fight might have been a fight that they should have run from, right? So there's going to be times like, especially probably more so in both our sessions moving forward, because now we're on the second half of Star Wars and everyone's kind of learned the system, so things are going to get more challenging. And in Daggerheart, we're just starting with that challenge because you guys are already used to a pen and paper system. Sure, we're learning Daggerheart, but at least we have the expectation like things are going to be simple. They're not going to be out there to get you either. Like, obviously that last fight, you know, like Lies said it, like if everyone was just further away, those mobs actually would have been a lot weaker, right? But like you said, Thistle wasn't going to move because Shroomy was there, and Shroomy wasn't going to move because Thistle's there. So you guys kind of had a conundrum in character to not move from that melee range because neither of you would have left each other. And because it was chaotic, maybe your characters failed to communicate like, hey, we need to move, right? Because it makes sense.
Yeah. And like I said in chat too, because Liz brought up, like, Thistle's not really a caster character and she's not a range character. Her abilities are close range. So yeah, she's always going to be up there if she's trying to hit something. And even her heal is a touch heal. So, I mean, if someone needs healed, she's got to run up and touch them right now. So yeah, she's always going to be pretty close. That's just her.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But then I also do think, like, out of character, yeah, you guys can totally coordinate. You don't have to just jump right into the character. Sometimes you guys can be like, hey, just letting you know, my character's going to run up there. Just a heads up. That's how it is. You can do that. Or you don't have to do that. It'd be like, hey, can I have my turn? And then you do it.
Yeah.
It's your character's choice, right? You're not making a choice that might not make sense to the group, but it's kind of like Cecile leaving the group in Star Wars. It made sense for Cecile to wander off by herself because that was Cecile's character. She had no real concept of what real dangers like, because she's part of a different world than that, different society. But she's not used to, like, oh my god, there's a base of soldiers down here, and what did I get myself into? Oh shit.
Yep.
There's concept.
Yeah, that's the truth. And yeah, I think you can, even if you know your character like is gonna do something, maybe something that's not the smartest. Yeah, you can feel free to let people know before, like, I already know Thistle is gonna go over and touch this tree. And if you know that her doing that is going to be like, if Arve sees Thistle walking toward the tree and Shroomy's like, no, and then grabs onto Thistle, like, you can know beforehand if you know that that's how it's going to happen. Then that's fine. Like, those things are fine. But yeah, it really just comes up to the player and how they want to communicate those actions that most likely are going to happen.
Yeah, and there's sometimes probably not the most ideal thing, obviously, because that last encounter was much tougher than it probably should have been. Just like Ula stepping forward. Obviously, in that moment, we weren't really thinking about. I mean, we all had that feeling like this is right, but we didn't think of like the what ifs. We didn't think of all the pools.
We thought about the what ifs after.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do have a question though for you.
What's that?
So, because we've kind of, I guess, fair to say, because of what happened, that a lot of the corruption, I guess, that was happening, it might not have dissipated, but it's like dead now. Would that be right?
Yeah, what happened is once you guys defeated that heart, those vines started to like turn brittle and start to break down. They're not just like turning to dust magically like in Final Fantasy or turning into wispy things. No, it's the outside of those like fleshy mattered vines is literally turning into like a brittle mass, and it's just literally like crumbling.
Yeah. So that adds another question. Because now that's kind of, that part is past. Just trying to think, just what if, I'm not sure if you'll answer this, but it's still fun to ask. If Thistle had actually touched that tree and not just down, what would have happened?
I probably would have had you do a presence check to see if you could resist something.
What would she have been resisting?
Well, you felt that anger, right, from the heart. Everything's
Yeah.
connected to it, so.
Yeah, so she probably would have just felt that at that moment.
Yeah, I mean, she might have suffered some strain if she failed, because it would have been mentally exhausting. She would have saw images that probably wouldn't have made sense to her, even on her natural understanding of the world. It just would not have been obscure. So.
Probably helped other people than herself.
Maybe not. Obviously, you could tell when you tried to talk to this thing, right? You got a raw emotion. You didn't get words. You didn't get verbalization. And that's because this thing may have been more ancient than perceived language, right? So it might not have been able to communicate to you in the same way as like a flower would have, or thistle.
Yeah.
It's just more ancient.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I was just wondering. I was like, what would have happened if she just touched that tree now? Oh, goodness.
I put a lot of thought into what would happen if you guys tried to talk. I'm like, no, not everything in a world you'd be able to understand, especially if it's misplaced at a time. If it's misplaced at a time, then maybe their way of communicating is far different than the way you communicate. So you might get something from your role. It just might not be verbal in context. It might be more emotion or a visual aspect or something different than what you're accustomed to. And I thought that was cool. I was like, oh, that makes sense, because why would a scholar know a language that's 10,000 years old and know it fluently? They wouldn't.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So that's why when you touched it, I was like, well, you succeed, but you're getting like this primal anger that's just resonating upon you from this. It is angry. You can't understand why it's angry, but it is angry. Usually when I use terms like primal, I'm usually referring to something.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's more like the stories involving around that are all like legends, basically, and folklore.
Yeah, you guys got hints of that in town. They were all trying to decipher from their folklore what was going on, whether it was accurate or not. You still got the sense that whatever's happening isn't something that's a common practice. Like they're trying to make sense of it with their stories. Like the whole salt around the thing. You don't know maybe if the salted land was what prevented them from breaching through, or maybe it was the light from within the thing. Because remember, when Geller had the light up, that frost couldn't penetrate much further. Or when you guys had torches up, things kind of receded away from you. So you don't know necessarily it was the salt. It could have been, but it could also have been the light that was permeating within the town hall. There's a lot going on there, but because the town is isolated from the rest of the Big Island, they kind of have a lot of like silly folklore, right? They got a lot of their own myths that might not make sense to quote unquote mainlanders. And when I use mainlanders, I'm weird to say that about an island, but yeah, they might not have the same common thread as like the sisterhood or the nobles or the dwarves. They have their own story, isolated.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they venture out from here, because there's so many other powers in this world. I think we've heard a couple mentions now of the sisterhood, and they have their role in the world, or at least on that the continent near there, that I think most of the characters have some kind of history with, good or bad. And if those people they come encounter with, that might be a whole nother obstacle they have to get past, especially if it's somehow discovered, that Eslain's character he got something, didn't he?
No, he was trying to, because that device broke when he used it, so he didn't really get anything from there. But I forgot if he picked up something. I know he has Valen, and Valen is a key for you guys. How you decipher that key is going to be up to you guys, because obviously she's fragmented. She has no idea what's going on. It's like however long a period of time is missing from her life.
Yeah, which is problematic too. You know, with the sisterhood, sisterhood has got people, specific sisters that are all about kind of protecting ancient artifacts and items like that, magical items. So the fact that this magical item had that seemed to belong to the sisterhood then got into that little cave and stuff, someone got it there. Maybe it was Valen, and how Valen did that, or how she was able to retrieve that. It's, you know, those things don't just go quietly. So there's definitely going to be some repercussions that probably come because of it.
Yeah, and that particular device was probably, you know, maybe not in the moment people could recall it, but, you know, Geller was looking into it, and he did succeed on one of his roles eventually, and it was determined, like, yeah, the sisterhood used devices to confront confrontations to keep them in place, to kind of like force settlement in some of these disputes because diplomacy wasn't working. And so these devices were used to kind of like strong arm the situation into a peaceful resolution because they didn't want another war. So yeah, that device is kind of like almost linked all of you a little bit in some ways, except for maybe Thistle, maybe Shroomy, and maybe Bremia, but definitely the soldiers to this, like, because we have 3 soldier-like stories group, kind of linked them in that moment to, like, oh, the sisterhood. Like, it leaves a lingering thought that potentially the sisterhood could be involved, but they may not be involved. It could be a herring, you know?
Yeah, it definitely could be. And yeah, I think all the characters have some kind of all of them have some types of feelings about all that stuff too. So
yeah, we haven't really explored Thistle's feelings about all of that part of the world, the human world, I guess you want to call it, and then you have the elf world, and then Shroomy, you know, she's not part of that human society. She is half elf and half mushroom person, so fungi, right? Is that what it's called? They're called fungi.
Yeah, she's got that. She's got that mix.
Yeah.
Yep, but yeah, I think it'll be interesting. It will be an interesting thing to discover as the story continues.
Yeah, you guys got a lot to deal with now because you know that you left the town with potential threat to the mayor. You know that's lingering there, but most of you don't really care about the mayor, but I think it's the action that you more care about, like people doing something wrong to someone just because they are dumb doesn't necessarily equate to equality in an action. So I think that's where people have more issues with, rather than not necessarily the mayor having these threats against them. I think it's just the action of it. And then I think you guys have to deal with Valen, and then you also have that soft timer going where the boat's eventually going to depart, right? And you got the whole town kind of like still fuddled with a little bit of that too, because you just dealt with the major thing, but now there's like these small fires.
Yep, they gotta figure all that stuff out in a very short period of time before they leave.
And
then they gotta figure out where they're leaving to.
Yeah, I mean, you're on that boat obviously can't cross the Great Divide, so you know at least at minimal you'll be heading towards the noble city, because that's probably the closest port. Because that boat, as it was described in that first session, is more like a ferry. It's not built for like deep sea expeditions. Even if the captain has a ship that can do that, this particular ship was literally just a ferry to an island. It's very much like, you know, any coastal town that has like a little island off the coast. It's very much kind of like that service that it's took. It'll be interesting to see the first reactions to the noble city. I think that'll be fascinating. And I already have a description to work with because someone provided that for me. And I'm looking at it.
Yeah, Valmir. That will be. It'd be interesting to know how long, if at all, they spend there, and they just go from there for sure. Because there's quite a few different options they could go with.
Yeah, Valmir will be. It's obviously the given, right? That's obviously next sport because the ship that you're on is further than that. So I mean that's a given. But where you go from there, that's up to you guys. You take a big ship and go overseas to the elves if you wanted to, or you could go to the dwarfs or go inland, you know, to those places. And wherever you decide to go, it'll be interesting to see what direction you guys take with what information you discover on Hearthvale, because whatever you discover on Hearthvale could also determine. That's right. And who knows?
Knowing you, there's definitely something to cover once they get back.
Oh, you guys had so many stories. Like, you guys interact with the mayor. I did not have that plan. I was like, oh, you know, it'd be kind of cool if the mayor was dumb. Because leaders aren't always all knowing, right? Sometimes they're just placed into power because they're either been there forever, they have money, whatever. So I was like, it'd be kind of cool to play like a leader that maybe doesn't know the best things for his people. And it worked because a lot of you guys do not necessarily like the mayor. I'm dumb. So, but that's perfect. Not every person you meet is going to be able to tell you everything. Not every person is going to be dumb either. A lot of people are going to be able to tell you a lot more. It's just you guys are in a small town. There's going to be a lot of people who are driven by their emotions, like that farmer in the East Fields when Geller and Varellis and I forgot who else was there. I think it was right. Remy?
Yeah, he was. That first group was, I think, Riot. It was all the soldier people. The Riot and Varellis, and then Heslane's character.
I mean, because Bremia was with you and Shrimmy.
Yeah.
At the harbor.
Yep, we were with the harbor and the harbor guy who's no longer with us.
Yeah, he was a jerk. So,
I don't think he'll be missed.
I don't think Bremia is going to be shedding a tear for him.
Nope, she did not like him.
But it makes sense that even like a farmer, even though they might know more, might be driven by their fear, right? And that holds them back from wanting to acknowledge something that's bad. And you see that in real life. So I'm trying to like bring some real life reactions, I guess, to Daggerheart because like it makes sense. If I'm scared of something, you know, maybe I'm not the type of person that wants to confront it. Maybe I want to pretend it doesn't exist. And by pretending it doesn't exist, it makes the matter worse, but it makes me feel better because I'm pretending it. Kind of like that fear, flight kind of mentality. But there's going to be other people, like the kid that goes up to Shroomy who has pure innocence and doesn't see the differences of people, and he just walks up to her and goes, oh, you're so cool, blah blah blah, and the mom shows the ignorance and takes the child away abruptly. Like those are the things that you guys will experience in the world, is like a little more real interactions with people, because this is the type of world you're in. It's just not everyone's going to be so forthcoming with information. Even if you roll really well, they might be forthcoming, but they might not be able to give you everything. Give you everything you need. But I think it makes it better for the storytelling if, you know, you're asking an average Joe on the streets about some high philosophy thing. They're gonna look at you like you've got 10 eyes on your face. And if you talk to a sister from the sisterhood, she might, and you want to talk about some sort of magical properties in your mail, she might just scoff at you and look at you like you're beneath her. Just how this world is. not going to always be the easiest thing, even in dialogue. I think dialogue is actually going to be more challenging in Daggerheart in some ways, but I think it's Star Wars now. Unless you're eloquent.
I think our most eloquent speaker is Rose's character now.
Oh, Niella? Yeah, Niella is definitely.
Yeah, she's now she's poor Nyla. She's like gotta be like almost like the leader of the group. She's gotta be the communicator, and she's gotta be the doctor who's healing everyone up. She's just got her hands full.
Yeah, the Republic's definitely putting a lot on her plate.
Yep, she's gonna need to ask for a raise.
At least she's got a personal escort in Bremia. Not Bremia, what's her name?
Beryl.
Geez, I gotta get used to those names. So many names to remember too. I'm gonna mess up all the time.
Yep. We got Beryl, who's gonna be the protector for Nyella. And then you've got HX, who is gonna be HX. And then you've got Carrick, Carrick. And then you've got my character, Holly, who's just gonna be like the what'd you call her? Called her a droid? Called her a droid earlier.
I don't know if I should call her a droid now, because when she was fumbling on that repetitive speech thing, she was having a lot of trouble.
she was having some struggles. But she'll be fine.
That whole oath was like, I'm giving her the line, aren't I? This was so funny.
Oh God. That was rough. It's gonna continue to be rough because she's got a very specific accent I'm trying to create, and it's hard. So
I know the Jedi have a lot of oaths and a lot of like, oh my God.
Yeah, and she's just gonna be skipping over the oaths. We're just gonna have to write that in. Yeah, she said the oath. Got it.
Oh no, you gotta repeat them. That makes it fun.
I'm gonna have to like record you and play it back.
Oh, that'd be weird.
Oh my God. Yeah, say the oath, and I'll play it back to you.
Oh no, thank you.
Oh my God. Oh my God. But yeah, we got Star Wars. That's gonna be tomorrow, because we're gonna have our Star Wars, which will be, I think we skipped last time there was a holiday, we skipped our Star Wars. So this time we're using this next session to be our Star Wars session.
Yep, we're gonna do Star Wars. They're gonna get to probably eventually leave Coruscant. We're gonna give everyone a chance to do some quick shopping on Coruscant, but then you guys head to Yavin 4. Yavin 4 is where we'll probably take a pause as I just explain the outpost system to you all, and then we'll go back into character and kind of explore hopefully Yavin 4 a little bit, and see what trouble you get into on a jungle planet that has a very rich Star Wars history. It'll be fun. But it'll be cool too, because that actually enters our new era of Star Wars, where you guys are going to be up against the war directly. You're going to be playing a part in it. You're going to impact, or not so much an impact. You're going to be building something together as a group, which will be cool. You'll have something to work towards. And while you're doing like these, like, I guess you can call them series of one-shots that we'll be doing, like these little missions that send you out to other planets, there's going to be a bigger story that's being developed around you guys that will eventually drag you back to it. So I think this will be cool, because it'll give you guys a chance to team building until you get drawn back into that big story. I think this will actually, you guys will be building a stronger team. Not that your team wasn't strong before, but I think it'll be stronger moving forward.
Yep, I think it should be a ton of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
That does end our tomorrow talk. Then we're right at that 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 3 o'clock Central. Looking forward to tomorrow and seeing what you guys buy for goodies, because well, 3 of you got a lot of money. 2 of you are kind of like, give me money. Like,
Yeah, I'm gonna be like that because my Moneybags is my master, and he's a cheapskate.
or you could be a gold digger.
He's a cheapskate. Yeah, I'll be like, when he's sleeping, I'll check his pockets.
Oh, jeez.
Like, let me see. Oh my gosh, just wrappers, just gum wrappers or something like that, candy wrappers.
Oh,
Oh my god.
and I will say I have a surprise for everyone. I changed the intermission, so it will now be rotating your guys' custom artwork for both systems while we're on intermission. So instead of a
Oh, that'd be nice.
instead of a video, I decided, we have all this beautiful custom artwork. We might as well show it. So we'll have that rotating too. I'm still working on making a more unified Star Wars appearance. It's there, but we have some custom artwork now that I haven't quite gotten in there yet for 2 of our members. That might not be done by next session, but I am working on it. Just kind of like character info screens and stuff. I'm working on that. That won't be tomorrow, but that'll be in the future. We have a few changes coming to our pen and paper layout.
I think it will be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I know everyone else is too, so we'll be doing that tomorrow.
Yep. And then until then, we'll be in ashes. So hope everyone has a great day, and we'll stream tomorrow. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for joining.